Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. I'd recently partnered with a small production plant nearby. Our deal involved me investing some capital and designing new automated processes for them, with a 2-year outlook that wrapped up in just 8 months. It was your typical small factory setup, around 50 production workers across 2 12-hour shifts running on a 2 days on, 3 days off rotation. There were also 2 production supervisors per shift and 1 maintenance supervisor overseeing each shift. The people and their attitudes ultimately made me decide to be more than just an outside contractor after I worked the night shift for a week to accommodate line upgrades that required shutdowns. That's when I met him. Let's call him Jerkface Jones. Jones seemed like an okay dude in our initial encounters, but then I heard him in full swing barking orders at his maintenance crew over the radio. He'd berate these guys who were just there doing their nightly preventative maintenance tasks on whatever machinery they were assigned to, unless something broke down and demanded priority attention, obviously. I'd never heard grown men talk to like that before, and shockingly, none of them ever mouthed off or defended themselves. He'd call them stupid over the radio if they struggled with a troubleshoot, labeled some as fat and lazy, even called this one black guy the N-word. This guy had been there since day one, and it just made me question my commitment to this company. When I raised it with the plant manager, he brushed it off as just friendly banter and claimed they rarely got complaints about Jones. Well, no kidding. Anyone who dared complain anonymously always got outed and then harassed by Jones until they got fired. Since nobody would listen, I decided to gather evidence. I started documenting every incident I witnessed, noting dates, times, who was present, and which employee rights were being violated according to state and federal guidelines. I kept a detailed spreadsheet log throughout my time on that shift. Harassment is sadly common in industrial settings, but what I learned can really torpedo a company is retaliation. If you can prove that happened, they're pretty much sunk. One night, I watched Jones tear into this 50-year-old guy who just requested 2 days off. I wanted to lose my cool, but knew it would jeopardize my whole documentation effort. The guy needed those days because his nephew had just been in a serious car accident and had multiple reconstructive surgeries scheduled. That's when I knew it was time to act. I gathered all the maintenance guys and shared the documentation with them. At first, they didn't grasp the significance, just resignedly saying nothing would change. But of course, nothing changes if you don't treat an issue as a real issue and come prepared with solid, detailed evidence. Funnily enough, Jones's excessive radio chatter ended up being a godsend because it meant there were always other supervisors overhearing and unintentionally witnessing his outbursts. With audio recordings backing up the accounts, they had no choice but to acknowledge what they'd heard. Each worker compiled their own logs. Despite my investment in this place, I urged them to at least petition for Jones's removal or threaten legal action. When they finally coordinated a day to present all the evidence, it was like one of those underdog sports movie moments. Not only did Jones get fired, but the entire atmosphere changed more than I could have imagined. The older machines ran smoother than ever during my time there, and people genuinely looked forward to coming to work again. About a week later when I came in, there was this placard on my door that said #1boss, but boss was crossed out and someone had hand-engraved the word badass underneath. I obviously took it down, but I kept it in my home office. It's probably the most meaningful thing I've ever received from a workplace. The next one is an entitled People Story. I've always loved being out on the open water. There's just something so peaceful and calming about feeling the gentle rock of the boat beneath your feet as you gaze out at the endless blue horizon. So when I finally achieved my lifelong dream of buying a boat, I was over the moon. The 40-foot yacht was my pride and joy. I spared no expense on equipping it with state-of-the-art fixtures and amenities. This baby was ready to provide me with years of sailing adventures and tranquil weekends out on the lake. Now came the tricky part, finding the perfect spot to dock my new vessel. I certainly didn't want to keep it moored out on the open water, exposed to the elements and potential vandalism. I needed a safe, secure marina with top-notch facilities. After an extensive search, I found Lakefront Marina, a privately owned marina with a stellar reputation. The owner, Stan, proudly offered me a long-term lease on a covered slip. I was thrilled. Not only would my boat be sheltered and safe, but the marina also had all the features I was looking for. Fueling docks, boat launch, ship store, maintenance services, security gate, the works. On my first day docking at Lakefront, I was impressed. Stan gave me a warm welcome and helped guide my yacht into the assigned slip. He seemed friendly enough, though I detected a hint of resentment in his demeanor, almost like he wasn't thrilled to be sharing his precious marina with outsiders. But I brushed it off, too excited about finally docking my pride and joy in this ideal location. The first few weeks went off without a hitch. I'd head to the marina on weekends to work on my boat, go for a quick sail, or just sit on the deck and admire my floating beauty. All was well, until that fateful day when I showed up at the marina to find a nasty note taped to my yacht. "Your boat is trespassing on my leased dock. Move it immediately or I'm calling the cops." The audacity of this accusation left me stunned. I figured it had to be some kind of ridiculous misunderstanding. There was no way I could be trespassing at a marina where I paid for a protected slip. After taking a few breaths to calm my indignation, I marched straight to the marina office to sort things out. That's when I came face to face with the note writer herself, Karen. The entitled, middle-aged woman immediately started laying into me. "Just who do you think you are parking that monstrosity of a boat in my personal slip? I pay top dollar to lease that docking space," she squawked. I tried to explain that I was also a paying slip tenant and that Stan had specifically assigned me that spot. But she refused to listen, insisting that the dock somehow belonged solely to her. We went back and forth for what seemed like an eternity before I threw my hands up in frustration and left to go speak with Stan directly. Unfortunately, Stan was mysteriously not around that day. I later found out that he was avoiding me on purpose. See, Karen's husband was Stan's lawyer and good buddy. Stan didn't want to get in the middle of the dispute and risk angering his lawyer pal. Coward move, if you ask me. A real stand-up marina owner would have set Karen straight, not cower and leave me hanging. But whatever, this was clearly something I'd have to handle without Stan's help. In the following days, Karen's harassment intensified. She slapped lawsuits on my windshield, reported me to the Coast Guard for blocking her dock, and even tried to have my boat towed. The pettiness was unreal. I wasn't going down without a fight, though. I knew I was in the right, so I started gathering every piece of evidence I could. My original lease agreement, receipts of slip rental payments, photos of Stan helping me dock in the contested slip that first day. Armed with a growing mountain of proof, I decided it was time for drastic action. I filed a lawsuit of my own against both Karen and Stan, accusing them of harassment, breach of contract, and outright fraud. You should have seen the look on their faces when the court notices landed on their doorsteps. Karen's bully tactics evaporated real quick once she realized this was escalating into a legal matter. As for Stan, he was furious that I was dragging him into this mess. "Too bad, buddy, you should have had my back from the beginning. Now it's time to face the music." In court, Karen tried to stick to her absurd story that she had exclusive rights to that marina slip. But the evidence against her was overwhelming. When I presented my original lease and receipts, the judge shook his head in disbelief. "Ma'am, this clearly shows that Mr. Stevens has rented that slip legally for months prior to your complaints," he said. Karen's cheeks flushed red with embarrassment, but she wouldn't give up so easily. That's when Stan stepped in to defend her, insisting that there had been a clerical error and that I was mistakenly assigned to the wrong slip. "That's impossible," I countered. "I have photo proof of Mr. Lake assisting me with docking in that exact slip when I first arrived." Stan stuttered and stammered, unable to come up with a reasonable response. The judge saw right through their flimsy act. After reviewing all the evidence, it was clear who the real owner of the marina was. During my lawsuit investigation, I uncovered county records showing that the marina property was still fully owned by the Lake family. Stan was merely operating it, but had intentionally allowed others to believe they were leasing or purchasing their own slips. Armed with this game-changing information, I turned the tables on Stan and Karen. "Your Honor, I'd like to press charges against Mr. Lake for fraudulent business practices. He misled patrons into paying slip fees under false pretenses." The judge agreed, and an investigation was swiftly opened up against the crooked marina owner. Long story short, Stan was ordered to pay heavy fines for his shady business dealings. The county also revoked the marina's operating permit until major reforms were implemented. As for Karen, she got slapped with hefty penalties for filing frivolous lawsuits. But the real pain came when she learned that her precious dock space never actually belonged to her at all. The look on her face was absolutely priceless. Justice had been served. Karen's harassment ceased immediately once she realized I was now untouchable with the law on my side. These days, I still dock my yacht in that same slip at Lakefront Marina. The new management is much more professional, and there's no more issues with slip rentals. As for entitled Karen and sneaky Stan, let's just say their high and mighty attitudes sunk faster than the Titanic. You mess with my boat, you're going down. The next one is a petty revenge story. This was around 15 years ago. I had a flatmate, let's call her Julie, who was always crying poor and never paid bills on time, etc. She then announces she's headed to Bali for a week. I said, "Before you go, are you going to give me the money you owe me for her part of our utility bills?" She said when she gets back. I'm livid, so off she goes. On the last day, she messages me and tells me she's got Bali belly and had diarrhea all day and worried about the flight home. She also informs me she is broke and could I pay for her taxi home, around $100, from the airport, as she's worried about taking public transport back in case her stomach is still upset. I told her I would be working and not home to pay for her taxi. She says fine, she'll ask one of her friends she's on holiday with to give her the money. Then she informs me she didn't take her house keys with her and could I leave them hidden somewhere so she could get into the house when she gets home. I don't reply, but I assume she thinks I will. Anyway, I wasn't really working, so I hid in my bedroom and I could see the front entrance from my bedroom upstairs and peek out the window. I watch her drive up and exit the taxi. She couldn't locate keys, so starts trying all different ways to get in. I had prepared and made sure every access point was locked up. She starts calling my phone, which I ignore. I can hear her swearing, and then she's doubled over, and before I know it, she's crapping herself. She's in a denim skirt, and it's runny. Now, I'll be honest, I was not quite expecting her crapping on our doorstep. I was more thinking she'd freak out and have to sit outside all day till I came home, but this was a far more perfect outcome. I only wish I could have filmed it. She is horrified, but changes into something from her luggage and hides her soiled clothes and suitcase in a bush in the front yard and takes off down the street. I take that opportunity to leave the house, and on my way out, whilst gagging, I placed her soiled clothes inside her suitcase. A few HRS later, I finally call her back, pretending to be on my lunch break, and she's screaming down the phone, blaming me for not leaving out her keys, and that she's been sitting outside for hours and begging me to come home to let her in. I said, sorry, I have to still finish work and have plans this evening, and she'd have to either call a locksmith or wait till I get home. She said I can taxi over my keys to her, which I refuse. She hangs up, and then I treat myself to 2 X movies at the cinema and a nice dinner. I get home later that evening, and she's broken a window to get in. The next morning, I contact the landlord and tell them what she did. As we paid rent individually, and they always had issues with her late rent, they said they would look at evicting her as they'd had enough too. She doesn't speak to me at all, and a few weeks later I'm informed via the landlord she's moving out. We never speak again. I'm pretty sure she tells the story as me being a psycho flatmate, which I'm happy to wear that badge proudly. The next one is a malicious compliance story. This happened in my old job, and I was reminded it today. Thought it would fit here. In my old job, we had a great boss and hybrid work. If we had any reason not to come to the office, just a message to him, an extra remote day would be approved. Then he was let go, and we got a new boss, who was exact opposite of her predecessor. This happened a few weeks after our old boss was let go, and his boss became our new boss. One morning I wasn't feeling well, too sick to travel to the office, but not too sick to work from home. I had a couple of remote meetings with customers, so it was just easier to me to work while being a little sick than try to reschedule. I spoke with my boss in Slack, and our conversation was like this. Me. Good morning, I have a sore throat and a slight fever. I'll be working from home today, so no need to reschedule anything. Boss. Our employer handbook clearly states that remote days are Tuesday and Thursday and exceptions need a pre-approved by the manager. I was pissed. Is she really trying to force me to the office even I'm sick? Or what was her motive? But then it hit me. It doesn't matter. And our discussion continued. Me. Oh, sorry, that's true. Me. I have a sore throat and a slight fever. I'm unable to come to the office, so I'm taking a sick day. Could you ask someone to reschedule the meetings with customer A and customer B since I'm recovering at home at least for today? Me. The employer handbook states that I can take 3 sick days in a row without a doctor's note, but I'm willing to make an exception if you want to, and get you one. Do you want it? I was left on read for 10 minutes. She started typing, deleted the text, started again, and deleted it again. She was active in our chat for entire 10 minutes until I finally got a response. Boss, no, that won't be necessary. I'll ask someone to reschedule those meetings. Get well soon. My colleagues almost died on laughter when I told them why I'm having a sick day and not just work from home. Our boss didn't like me after that, but the feeling was mutual. I left the company later for a new job, but not before she was fired. The next one is an entitled people story. This happened many years ago when I lived with my parents in NY state. I had this friend who lived in another state, FL, and told me he was going to come NY and if he could visit. Many friends had visited over the years. My parents were cool with it. This is before cell phones were popular or internet easily available everywhere. I'd give the same instructions to all visiting friends. Go to Grand Central Station, go to the ticketing office, ask for Hudson Line, buy for this station. They'll tell you the track number, check the time, call me, payphone, when it leaves, take the train, keep an eye on the stations, they'll announce it on speakers. I'll pick you up at the station. This friend says no way he can do that, he'll get lost. I have to go pick him up. I tell him, dude, it's a 1H trip, 2H round trip. He replies he'll have a panic attack, he'll get lost. I caved. I took the train down, meet up, took the train back. I took him around town, he stayed the weekend, then drop him off at the station. I was relieved. All he talked about was how awesome his life was in FL. It wasn't as much fun to have him around as other friends, but I was over. Next day, he calls saying he left a t-shirt in my room. I found it and offered to mail it. He goes, "Oh, no worries, my parents are here and offered to drive me there. What's your address?" I tell him I'm going back to college and won't be home during the week. He says no problem, all he needs is his t-shirt. All for a stinking t-shirt. Weird, but whatever. He and his parents drove over the next day. My parents told me they asked to see the house. Almost like they toured it. They thought it was weird, but they had met their son, and he was weird. We think nothing of it. He calls me a couple of months later to talk seriously. I was like, okay. He then says how he wants to move to NY and his parents would only let him if he comes to live at my parents' house. I was like, what? Why? Isn't FL amazing? He says, thing is that I'm stripper and I can make so much money in NYC. I was like, okay. But we don't live in NYC, dude. It's 1H away by train. He says it's okay, he'll just commute. I tell him I had moved out and was living in a small studio place by school. So sorry you can't move in with my parents. He kept calling after that, but I never called him back. He eventually figured out I ghosted him. I never heard back from him. He added me once in social media, but I unfriended him fairly quick. The next one is an entitled parent's story. Oh boy, guys. I, 25F, am just at a loss here. So, some backstory. My father is a wonderful, wonderful parent. He has always wanted to be involved in my life. Parents went through a very messy divorce when I was 2 or 3, so I literally have no memory of my parents ever being together. My mom lucked out and got full custody, with my dad getting visitation, where my brother and I got to stay with him every other weekend. Basically got to see my dad 4 days a month if I was lucky, and the occasional half-holiday. Anyway, on to my mom. We got along practically my entire adolescent life. We started fighting more often as I got older. The reason this is important to the story, or rather my current situation, is because you all need to know what happens when Mom and I fight. Most fights with my mom happen due to her feeling less important than other people. We fought about my dad, my stepmom, and my boyfriend because in certain situations she has felt that they were prioritized over her. She gets very emotional, yelling, screaming, crying, and will not listen to reason. She has said before that she feels punished when other people get more of my time than her. She has accused me of not loving her, even when I am actively showing how much I love her, and I feel very hurt that she feels unloved, but also upset because I should not have to prove my love when it should be a known fact. She also harbors things for months without telling me, and idealizes situations and becomes irate if they do not turn out the way she envisioned. The biggest problem is she does not listen when we fight. I could very calmly and sweetly explain something to her and try to argue my side, and it just goes right in and back out. Her behavior can be very immature, and it often feels like I am the adult and she is the child. On to the issue at hand. She casually, but very firmly, mentioned recently that she wants to walk me down the aisle, ideally alone, but if not, with my father. She believes it is her right since she raised me. I shut it down, but she insisted, and I said we would talk about it when an actual wedding is being planned. I was not prepared for this. My anxiety went through the freaking roof. I do not want her to walk me down the aisle. My father missed out on so many milestones during my life, despite wanting to be involved. I want him there with me, alone. I think it's pretty rude for her to say she raised me as if my dad was some sort of deadbeat when he absolutely wasn't. This is the one thing he gets. She got everything else. She got to see me like 8x more often than my dad. Like literally experienced over 5,000 days with me during my childhood when my dad only got about 700. He is the one I want walking me down that aisle. I know my mother. This will be a huge deal, and I am not ready mentally for the fallout. I am trying to figure out the best way to handle this, hopefully getting through to her, but I just don't know. My boyfriend and I have been dating for many years, and intend to get married eventually. We don't know when, but I want a game plan for this well in advance so I can talk to my mom about it and get it situated as soon as possible. I'd rather give it time to heal than her still be bitter at the wedding. And I do want her at the wedding, and I want to go dress shopping with her, and am more than happy to have her involved in the wedding party. She just cannot walk me down the aisle. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.